Hello everyone, today I'll be introducing the Blaze build that I used. First of all, this build has the advantage of dealing incredibly high burst damage. While it might be a bit challenging to enjoy in PvP, it shines in PvE where it performs exceptionally well. With this build, you can easily clear all the Nightmare difficulty prime or rewards without any issues. You can easily rack up 1000 points just with the basic damage from the weapon alone. Now, let's take a closer look at the setup. The core of this build is the Hardy Gloves, which apply instant explosions with burn stacks, allowing for burst damages. The rest of the build consists of 3 pieces from the Shelterer set and 2 pieces from the Heavy Duty set to burst damage of Elemental, but you can also go with a full 4-piece Shelterer set depending on your preference. Starting with the weapon, I use the KVD Boom Boom. This weapon has an 18% chance to trigger burn on hit, and when an enemy in a burn state die, they explode, dealing splash damage. This makes it the most suitable weapon for this build in my opinion, as it also increases a blaze damage. As for the weapon module, I use Embers. The current method involves stacking burn, then detonating to deal explosion damage. With the Embers module, after the explosion, the burn stack doesn't completely disappear, but only helps, making it easier to restack and maintain the burn status. And for the attribute effects, prioritize increasing elemental damage. If possible, burn damage or blaze damage is also a good choice for this attribute. For the weapon calibration, I currently have stabilized dial, but this isn't crucial. Just choose the module with the highest elemental damage. Now let's look at the armor modules. For the helmet, I use Elemental Havoc to increase elemental damage. For the chest, I'm using Critical Rescue, which gives damage reduction when HP is below 30%, but this is more a matter of personal preference. For the bottoms, I use Precision Charge, which increase elemental damage by 10% for every weak spot hit rate. For the shoes, I use Covered Advance, which increases weapon status damage if you do not take damage for 4 seconds. Again, feel free to switch this up according to your preference. The gloves also use Elemental Overload to boost elemental damage, which, like the helmet, I consider a must-have module. Lastly, the mask is the most important piece. You have 2 options here. A Retribution Explosion module that increases critical damage by 40% against enemies in the burn state, or a Blaze Amplifier that boosts psi intensity damage per burn stack. Pick whichever you prefer or whichever has better attribute options. For attribute, I recommend options that support Blaze, such as elemental damage, burn damage, or increased burn trigger chance. For attribute effects, prioritize maximizing elemental damage, above everything else. The mask module and weapon module have burn attributes, and for the rest, focus on enhancing elemental damage. Next is the cradle setup. I consider the automatic weapon enhancement essential, since this build relies on boosting damage. With the Pyrodino, Deviation Master is a must-have. I also recommend Rapid Aid, as it's generally beneficial for all builds. Sustained Suppression and Prairie Fire Inferno are essential for this build as well. The rest can be customized according to your preference. You can invest in roll damage reduction and increased movement speed, or like me, put more into status and weapon damage. Now for the combat strategy. The idea is to stack burn with your weapon and then detonate it for burst damage. The Pyro Dino's attacks also stack burn and increase blaze damages. So when the Pyro Dino is out, the explosion damage can exceed 80,000, dealing a massive burst of damage. I use a technique where I summon the Pyro Dino for burst damage and then retract it. While it might be tricky at first, you will get the hang of controlling the Deviant after a few times. Next, I will show you an example of fighting elite bosses. As you can see, the burst damage from the explosions causes the bosses to melt away instantly. This build generates an incredible amount of burst damage, which the Pyro Dino causing momentary explosions before being retracted. It may take some time to get used to, but once you do, you will find it easy to control your Deviant. Lastly, I will show you how to fight the Mist Giant Deviants. The Gatling gun doesn't deal as much damage, so I don't use it. You can see how quickly the level 55 giant melts away. So that's the build I'm currently using. While there may be better builds out there, I find this one enjoyable and effective for clearing the season without any issues. If this video helped you, please like and subscribe. Happy farming!